Welcome back to another episode in my kitchen. Today we're going to cook something amazing. We're going to cook a very popular vegetarian British Indian restaurant side dish called Aloo Gobi. Aloo means potato, Gobi means cauliflower. And nice and quick, very healthy recipe. So let's start with the ingredients. Let's start top left. We've got some finely sliced coriander. Here we have some pre-parboiled vegetables, namely, obviously, cauliflower and potato, always boiled in a little bit of turmeric and a little bit of salt. And the trick is just to parboil them, because if you overboil them, they're going to break apart in your dish and you're going to end up with mashed potato and little tiny pieces of cauliflower. So parboil them. They're quite firm. They've got a good couple of minutes cooking time, which is going to be finished off in the sauce. Next to that we have a heaped tablespoon of ginger and garlic paste, the same quantity of tomato puree with a little quantity of water added to it just to make it palatable. Below that we have about 4 or 5 chopped freshly green chilies, and as this is a British Indian restaurant style curry, I'm not using fresh lemon today. I'm going to use, as they do in many restaurants, the cheapest efficient alternative. We've got a dash of lemon, probably about 1.5 teaspoons for convenience. To the right of that we have some amazing curry powder which I made the other day. I'll post the recipe up for that as we speak. Next to that, I just can't resist it, adding a little bit of tandoori masala, and there's probably about half a teaspoon of tandoori masala and a level teaspoon of the curry powder. Next to that, 3-in-1 here, we have about a third of, just a generous pinch or a third of a teaspoon of turmeric. We have half a teaspoon of salt, and importantly, I find it's a marriage made in heaven in terms of tastes. I just love to put some green cardamom powder in. There's a good pinch there. Next to that we have some spices that we're going to use to flavour our oil. We have a little bit of cinnamon. We have little stick here, like a 1-inch length of cinnamon. You don't want to use too much, it gets very bitter, just to add that subtle underlying cinnamon taste which goes really well with the potatoes and the cauliflower. And we have some methi leaves, about a third of a teaspoon, that have been crunched up, roasted first, so it produces a nice powder. We have some curry leaves, I think I just mentioned that, and we have some fennel. Okay, so those spices are going to use just to flavour the oil. Next to that we have quite a heaped teaspoon of Kashmiri chili powder. You might be alarmed at the quantity, but Kashmiri chili powder just adds that subtle red colour. It's not a very spicy curry. It's not a very spicy powder. And last but not least, we have some base gravy, which is very popular in British Indian restaurants, especially Bangladeshi ones, and I'm also going to post a link to that as we speak. Last but not least, we have 2 halves of tomato. They're quite small tomatoes that we're going to add in just to create a little bit of more colour and to get a little bit of acidity into the dish. Okay, let's get cooking. So I've just heated up about 1.5 tablespoons of oil, that's here, and I like to keep my base gravy heating up next to that, and that oil's heated up nicely now. So let's add the whole spices, the curry leaves, the methi leaves, the fennel seed, and the cassia bark or cinnamon. Okay, what we want to do is just stir that in. Let it release those flavours. Let's turn that base gravy down a bit. Okay. So you see the colour emanating from those spices now. That's a good sign that your oil is going to be infused with all those amazing flavours. Next we're going to add our ginger and garlic paste. Just going to sizzle that off for about 40 seconds on a highest heat, making sure you don't burn it. Right, next we're going to add our tomato paste, and that's just Napolina tomato paste. I prefer Napolina because it's really bright red and it's very good quality. And again, we're going to let that sizzle off, reduce some of the moisture. Sorry for anybody that tunes in regularly to these recipes that I have to repeat myself, but I've got to bear in mind that there are new watchers, people that haven't seen any of the other recipes, so I will explain everything in full. Okay, let's give that a good sizzle. Let's add the fresh green chilies. Let's start adding our spices. So that was the Kashmiri chili powder. Now the tandoori masala with my homemade curry powder. The salt, turmeric and green cardamom powder. Give that a stir. Next I'm going to add my lemon juice. Just balances those spices out and helps it combine. I turn the heat down now. You don't want to burn it, just make sure everything's well combined on a low heat just for this part. Smelling amazing. Just bring that to the boil. We're going to add a little bit of base gravy at this stage, about half of it. Give that a stir. Make sure all that paste that we've just cooked is absorbed into the base gravy. And this is quite a dry dish, so I have probably used about 300 millilitres of base gravy for this recipe. Okay, we'll reduce that somewhat and we'll come back to it shortly. So that's been bubbling away now for about 3 minutes. I can see a lot of the moisture's left. I can tell that by the bubbles throughout the dish. I haven't been constantly stirring it, I've just left it, which is quite important for caramelization and added flavour. Now I'm going to add the potatoes and cauliflower. And I'm just going to make sure the potato and the cauliflower is well coated with the spice mix, and we're going to come back to that in a moment. So my potatoes and cauliflower are well coated. Now I'm going to add the remainder of the base gravy. It's a little bit of a shame that people use pre-cooked vegetables in these types of BIR curries, because although they will take on and absorb some flavours, especially because they're parboiled and they'll still continue to cook, it's much better to cook vegetables in the sauce like they do in more traditional or Indian recipes. Okay, we're just going to fold that in slightly, and we'll add the tomatoes now as well. Just fold it in. Your vegetables by now are going to be quite delicate. You want to keep them whole, nice and chunky, or smaller if you like, more smaller pieces. So this is optional really, but I'm going to add some coriander. Coriander can be added right at the end like this, because it doesn't really need to be cooked, it just needs to be wilted into the sauce and it'll almost disintegrate. You'll just have some green specks that looks really nice, and coriander goes really well with these vegetables. It goes well with anything really, doesn't it? So I'm pleased with that. So we're going to let that come to the boil once again, 3 or 4 minutes, and we're ready for serving. So that's exactly how I want it. Parboiling, very important with those vegetables, they haven't disintegrated. So let's turn that off the heat. The oil started to split, it's well heated, and we'll serve that right now. Okay, this is ready to serve now. I can just about get that in actually. Okay. So, very easy, not a difficult recipe. And finally, let's add a little bit more fresh coriander on the top. And there you have it. Burst into the seams, but So there you have it, aloo gobi, quick, simple, nutritious, very comforting, full of flavour. Feel free to like, subscribe. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you.